Meet Daniel, a young architect with grand dreams. Daniel has dreams of one day designing iconic structures that would change the skyline of the cities that he loves. Ever since he was a child, Daniel had a passion for creating. His sketches filled countless notebooks, and his imagination was always alive with possibilities. But as he grew older and pursued his career, Daniel found himself lost in a maze of responsibilities and detours that seemed to pull him far away from his dreams. After graduating with honors, Daniel was sure that he was well on his way to fulfilling his dream. He said, "Hey, I got the paper now." And with that, he imagined a straight path leading from his degree to designing breathtaking buildings. Instead, he found himself working long hours at a corporate firm, designing mundane office spaces, and sitting in endless meetings about budgets and safety codes. The very passion that once fueled him began to flicker. Day after day, he felt misplaced, like a traveler who had wandered into a labyrinth with no clear way out. Daniel began to feel overwhelmed, frustrated, and ultimately trapped. How did I end up here? This isn't the life that I dreamed of. They told me, go to school 4 years, get the paper, and then get the job of your dreams. The work that Daniel was doing felt uninspired, and each day felt like another loop in the labyrinth. It was as if his life had wandered off course, leaving him to wander aimlessly. One evening, after a particularly draining day, Daniel went to a local park. As he walked through the park, he stumbled upon an intricate maze-like garden. He couldn't resist the urge to explore it, hoping that maybe he can find some sort of clarity within its winding paths, or at the very least, get his mind off of his draining day. As he navigated the twists and turns, he ran into an old gardener named Mr. Lewis. As Mr. Lewis is pruning the hedges, he looks up, sees Daniel, and says, "Lost?" Daniel replied with a nervous laughter, "You could say that. I'm trying to figure out how to get out of here, but I keep ending up in the same spaces." Mr. Lewis laughed to himself and replied, "Sometimes people think getting lost in this maze is a waste of time. But the truth is, the labyrinth is where you learn the most. You discover patience, problem solving, and a new perspective every time you make a wrong turn." Daniel paused to consider Mr. Lewis's words. He realized how much his life felt like this maze, full of unexpected turns and frustrating dead ends. Yet as he thought more deeply, he recognized that he has been learning and growing despite the feeling of being misplaced. His job, though far from his dream, taught him about real-world architecture. It taught him about problem solving under pressure and managing projects with multiple constraints. Skills that he hadn't even considered were becoming second nature to him. Mr. Lewis looks at Daniel and says, "The maze doesn't take you off course, it's part of the course. Every path teaches you something, even if it feels like a detour." Daniel left the maze that night with a little spark of hope. Perhaps I'm not as lost as I thought I was. From that day forward, Daniel started to approach his work with a new mindset. Instead of resenting the tasks that he found uninspiring, he looked for opportunities to learn from them. He volunteered for challenging projects that normally he wouldn't be interested in, simply to have his skills stretched. He began to use his free time to work on side projects that ignited his creativity and reconnected him with his passion for design. Over time, Daniel's mindset shift began to pay off. He gained the reputation for being dependable and creative, and his innovative ideas began to catch the attention of the most senior partners. One of his mentors noticed his potential and invited him to collaborate on a unique project, a public art installation that would breathe new life into an old urban square. It was the first time in years that Daniel felt the thrill of creating something meaningful. Years later, Daniel stood on a rooftop overlooking one of his designs, and he thought back on his journey from where he was to where he is now. And he realized that every step, even the ones wherein he felt misplaced, had led him to this very moment. We've all had moments in our lives when we feel out of sync with our dreams. The path we're on seems to veer so far from the direction that we had envisioned. And sometimes the day-to-day grind feels like a series of tasks that don't add up to the life that we had imagined. It's as if the things we're doing to survive, to make ends meet, aren't connected to what we genuinely want for ourselves. This sense of being misplaced is both disheartening and straight up frustrating. But here's something important to remember. Just because you feel out of place doesn't mean that you are. Think about this. How often do we assume that our progress should be linear? Seems simple enough to us, right? Every step should directly lead us to our goals, and anything that doesn't is a complete waste of time. And in a smaller sense, I guess that's true. But when we look with a wider lens, we realize that true growth, the kind that transforms us from who we are to who we were meant to be, is often unpredictable and messy. Feeling misplaced can be a part of a greater story that is unfolding, one where the unexpected chapters are just as vital as the ones that we planned. Sometimes it's in these moments of feeling lost that we're preparing for our future in ways that we couldn't anticipate. It's easy to wish away difficult seasons. It's natural to hope for quicker results, a more straightforward journey through life. But consider this. Every season has a purpose. But the thing about seasons is the purpose isn't necessarily revealed until we leave the season we're in and head to the next season. And then you look back and you go, oh, that's why I needed that. There are seasons meant for planting seeds, working tirelessly in the soil without seeing any visible reward. Other seasons are about nurturing the growth of what you planted, while other seasons are about harvesting the very fruit of your labor. Feeling misplaced often means you're in a season where things are being cultivated under the surface. This is the time to recognize that every experience, no matter how disconnected it feels, is contributing to personal growth. Embracing the season you're in means releasing the need for everything to make perfect sense. If you're like me, things have to make sense. I don't even have to like the outcome, but what I'm doing has to make sense or I'm just irritated. But sometimes the very discomfort you feel is a sign that you're growing in ways that aren't obvious yet. Growth is uncomfortable, and the transformation process often requires us to walk through the valley of uncertainty. But remember this, not all that wander are lost. And wandering doesn't mean that you lack direction. It might be a necessary part of finding a deeper sense of purpose. Another thought is that often when we feel misplaced, we put all of our hope in the future, wishing for the day when everything falls into place. But what if the purpose isn't just in reaching the destination, but in the journey itself? Sometimes the most profound lessons are found in the seemingly irrelevant and mundane moments. It's the people you meet, it's the skills you develop, or the strength you cultivate while enduring what feels like an off-course path that leads to the richness of your story. Purpose is something you can seek out actively. It's about asking yourself, what can I learn from this moment? How is this moment shaping me to be better, to be wiser? How is it shaping me to become a more compassionate person? When you shift your mindset to find purpose, even in what feels like a detour, you give yourself a chance to appreciate the process and recognize the value in every step. One of the biggest reasons that we feel misplaced is that we lose sight of our core motivation, our why. It's very easy to become disillusioned when the hard work, the setbacks, the everyday responsibilities seem disconnected from our dreams. But we can't become so obsessed with getting there that we forget why we started in the first place. Think back to when you started the journey that you're on. What inspired you? What were the dreams and the visions that set your heart on fire? I've said it here before, but the why in life is supremely important. Your why will give you a push when you cannot push yourself. Many times, I got tired of doing something. Many times, I got what you would call weary on the journey. But the why within me would rise up. And whenever we begin to reconnect with the why, we reignite the spark within us, and we are reminded that there is a reason and a purpose behind every sacrifice and every struggle. When your vision feels far off, it's supremely important to remind yourself of why you started in the first place. Maybe it's a desire to create a better future for yourself or for your family. Perhaps it's a passion for making a difference in the world and leaving your mark. Whatever it is, let your why become your anchor. Something that keeps you grounded and reminds you that the current struggle isn't without purpose. You're tired, but there's a purpose. You're frustrated. There's a purpose. There's a passion inside of you, and when you look at what's around you, you become angry with yourself. You become angry with life because this does not look like what I have on the inside of me. But when the passion inside of you is greater than a circumstance around you, the stage is set for greatness and your life is set up to grow. Let your why, let that passion be your North Star and let it guide you, even when the path seems confusing. Trusting the process is the hardest thing to do when your life feels off course. It's easy to get caught up in the frustration of you not being where you want to be. It's easy to get caught up in the feeling that life is playing a joke on you and leading you down a series of dead ends. It's easy to get caught up in the thought of there's something wrong with you, and that's why all of this is happening around you. That's why you can't figure it out, because it's you. But here's something to consider. Sometimes it's not about understanding the journey, rather taking it one step at a time. Trust isn't about having all the answers. In fact, in any area where we have all the answers, trust is unnecessary. It's about shifting your mindset to believe that every experience is leading you to something meaningful, even if you just can't see it yet. When you trust the process, you begin to release the fear of making mistakes. You learn the truth that life's detours and unexpected challenges are often setting you up for your breakthrough. Many times, what we see as an obstacle is actually an opportunity in disguise. Trusting the process means having faith that there's something to be gained, even when the outcome isn't what you envisioned. Another thought is that when the big picture feels overwhelming, it's important to focus on the small wins. Every tiny victory, every moment you overcome doubt, every new skill you learn is worth celebrating. You are worth celebrating, even before you get to where you think you should be. The small moments, they compound, they add up to significant progress over time. And I want to challenge you that if you're listening to me and you're struggling to see the bigger purpose, begin to find joy in the little things. Maybe it's the fact that you showed up for yourself today. Maybe it's the fact that something pushed you out of your comfort zone. Focusing on the small wins shifts your mindset from feeling misplaced to feeling empowered. It reminds you that even if the journey feels disconnected, you're still moving forward. And slow progress is still progress. Progress doesn't always look like huge leaps. Sometimes it's about that one step at a time, even when it feels insignificant. When you appreciate these small moments, you begin to see that they are a part of a larger story unfolding. Another challenge when you're feeling misplaced is the temptation to freeze, to wait until everything feels right to act. But waiting for the perfect moment often leads to missed opportunities. Instead, take imperfect action. Move forward, even if you're not sure of the next step. Progress comes from movement. Progress comes from being willing to try and fail. Progress comes from being willing to learn and grow. Taking action doesn't have to mean making huge, life-altering decisions. It can be as simple as learning a new skill, reaching out to someone for advice, or taking time to reflect or realign your goals. These small, consistent actions can help you gain a sense of direction. Even if you don't have the full map, start with what you have and trust that clarity will come as you go. Another thing that happens when we're feeling misplaced is we begin to feel isolated, as if we're the only ones that are struggling with a lack of direction. This is why your inner circle is so important. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who understand the journey because they're on their own, and who remind you of who you are. Sometimes in life, you need a crew that'll sing back your greatness when you forget for yourself. Seek out those who inspire you, who encourage you to keep going, and who aren't afraid to challenge you when you need it. Encouragement is powerful. It can turn a difficult day around and give you the strength that you need to keep pushing. Your circle should be a source of positive energy, a place where you can share your concerns, your fears, your dreams without judgment. Find people who believe in you, even when you're struggling to believe in yourself. Lastly, when everything feels out of place in your life, practicing gratitude can shift your perspective. It doesn't mean ignoring the hard parts, pretending everything's perfect. Instead, it means finding moments of grace and gratitude, even when life feels messy. I know it feels like you have the weight of the world on your shoulder. I know it feels like you don't know how you're going to get out of this thing, but breathe in, breathe out. You're still here. You still have a purpose, and the struggle is strengthening. The trial is equipping you with what you need to become the person that you were meant to be. Remember, feeling misplaced doesn't mean that you've lost your way. It's a reminder that the path to becoming your best self is rarely straightforward. You're evolving, you're growing, and being prepared for what's to come. And I am challenging you as I am challenging myself. In this very moment, trust that this part of your story has meaning, even if it's not clear yet. Keep moving forward. Keep believing, and know that you won't be there forever. But right now, you are exactly where you're supposed to be in life. If you enjoyed this video, I want you to subscribe to this channel. We are building a community of growers. Click the subscribe button and join the community. Always remember that growth is a journey, it's not a destination. I'm in it with you, and I'll see you on the next one.